Welcome back to RP Gamepire, and this is a pre-review without getting deep into the whole rules and game rules of the game. And I will talk the likeness and dislikes of what I've known so far. The dislikes are very minimal, and hence why I'll talk of it first and push really why this is a phenomenal board game, but it comes with some disappointments that hence why I'll talk about it first. The first is Corpus Belli is pushing other features on board games. I think he's slowly getting on the whole crowdfunding, etc. And he has pushed two new board games. One of them, which I supported, which is the latest one, I think it's called Warcrow or something like that. But it's disappointing because Corvus Belli seems to be giving up on its Infinity Defiance, and I think it's something phenomenal. I think he gave it a lot of labor of love. It's still lackluster and a little bit fiddly kind of with the rules a bit in a sense of getting understanding of clear points on certain things because reading and also seeing what it's online, it sometimes can be like debatable of is it this way or that way, and again, it's open to interpretation as some say this or that. So we will play it as best, but most importantly, RP Gamepire, it's the story, and that's what matters most. And there's amazing, like there's up to 16 characters you can play with, and you can fool around and change it, interchange it. And there's three campaigns, and the core block comes with one campaign, and it's like phenomenally big. I mean, like there's over 11 missions, but it's segmented, meaning they come in phases each mission, and they're really called missions, not quests. And more importantly, there's so many ways to go about it, and you can have fail. You can finish a mission with failure, which is weird, but not weird in a bad way. But it has strong points, and it's also what makes this board game also I just mentioned the whole disappointing fact, and I'm done with that. But all the great points are pretty much aside. Well, another disappointing fact one can argue is the fact that you have to assemble the miniatures in this board game, and you have to paint them if you want. But again, no board game ever comes painted, so unless you're willing to pay extra. But the thing is, overall, you have to assemble it because everything comes from the Infinity World, and we can discuss that even further once we get into the review. But there's three campaigns. The first one is the Infinity Defiance, and then we move on from there. We go to the Outcast, I believe, and from Outcast we go to Revenant, and those are the three amazing campaigns. We're gonna go through all of that, and hence, this also has gotten me. We're gonna discuss that further in the review, but because of this board game, I got into the Infinity World, and I think it's much better, and I'm probably gonna get blasted here, but I find it better than the sci-fi of Warhammer 40K, because again, that's fantasy, however you look at it. But this is more modernized and more sci-fi and Trekkie kind of style. I mean, like much better. But I mean, I love it, and I think it's phenomenal. It's one of those board games, the only ones I really have seen that's sci-fi that's amazing. In Corvus Belli, he was listening to this. I hope he doesn't give up on this, because this is what potentially made me buy into an Infinity World and go deep into it. And we're going to talk about that in the review. But I won't go dwell that deeper in that. This board game is just mainly, as if you've been following the story so far in the first video, is about a group of heroes are going to go on a suicide mission. Sounds like if you play video games like Mass Effect. And if you didn't play that video game, you should. It's a 3-part trilogy. And hey, what do you know? 3 campaigns, 3 parts. Okay, so and it's about the same almost concept where you're going on a suicide run against an alien, powerful race, and their determination and focus is pretty much the annihilation or subjugation of humanity. And as humans, we have advanced, and like we always seem to advance, and we also seem to always, have frictions and etc. And in this, world, the human sphere, we have, gone beyond Elon Musk's vision, and we have explored and settled quite a few planets. But our separation division still lies there, and there's different factions, etc. And I think he introduced 1 or 2 new factions, but in the end, it's just a beautiful world, beautiful story. I think there's lack a little bit of more lore. I hope he has more lore, more character, more stories. But this board game, getting back to this, is the components that you see is pretty much what you overall play with. So after every mission that you complete, you're pretty much going to go back to your starship, and this is your starship, and there pretty much you're gonna settle in, like, this is the dock, your health dock. You're gonna I don't want to get deep into the rules. As you go flow with the story, you'll pretty much get the nooks and crannies of how the game plays. But basically each location here empowers different parts, and that can have an effect on the characters, right? So if anybody's in the sick bay, they can heal up, etc. Sorry, they're an engineer and a medic here, etc., because they give bonus effects, etc. And also here, this is something very, very powerful, that we are trying to collect, right, to weaponize this starship that you own, which the Defiance, and it's called, if I believe, blanked out on that one, but put it in the comments or it's going to come back to me later. Now, very, very important. Each character models are here. The miniatures are metal. Like, look at this. This is the Nox Spec Ops, right? Look at this character. I'm sorry, the camera has never been friendly to me. And here, let's see if we can see that little show. Okay, no, we're not gonna see it as well as we want to. But again, the doors and this console and this is a loot box. These are extras that you have to buy. Usually they're tokenized, etc. So we kind of 3D this whole sphere. Now, obviously there's other parts to this map which I'm not displaying because I'm kind of playing the realism of unlock the door and then you'll know what's waiting for you there. This is the team, and again, there's so much that goes on into this. There's so much detail. Each character, as you can see here, this is Raoul Spector. If you follow the story, he's one of the characters that pretty much has gone on this suicide run. And what makes him very special, like each character has their talents, right? Default talents, and they all different from one another, which makes it beautiful. But the main thing, like you've seen, as it's been explained by Corvus Belli himself, and also more important in the storyline, that he's someone that's pretty much has sacrificed a lot to make put his body for abuse, but again makes him more deadly every time he comes back. All right, and there's different weapons. We're doing here with sci-fi weapons. Okay, there is swords still and nice, but in overall you got guns, you got shotguns, etc. You got different kind of units, and more important, there's no like health. There is health potions, so it's not true. There's medikits, but the way it works here is the medikit here, you got auto medikit that you start with, which is the neat thing about it is if you die and it's a one-time shot deal, it brings you back to life. Back to life. Okay, no, don't do that. But okay, so the thing is, this is very intriguing. So as you regain your health, and I believe the maximum is up to 8 health, right? And his health is 10. So maximum is 8. You also gain one of this cards, which is kind of disability, means you have a negative, hence why you go to the ship, and you roll and take a chance to medicate yourself and heal up that wound. But if you gain that, you also, behind those cards, which I don't want because I shuffle it, so I don't want to see what there is, but behind those cards you have injuries. So you can have a broken leg, so it slows to -1 to movements, etc. So it's a bad thing that you can have. And more important, there's the items, right? So the kind of items you find there are, very generic kind of items, medikits and grenades, but there's no weapons per se, okay? A grenade is a weapon, but hey, the status effects that you can obtain is right here, and the description is right on it. So the enemies or the heroes can obtain them. So they're all, by default, which is nice, And this is the AI cards, which display the AI behavior, so hence why you could play co-op or play by yourself. And this is pretty much the initiative cards for the foes, okay? And you don't need for the heroes because every time an enemy goes, a character goes right after. So one thing to note is first the character starts, enemy, character, enemy, character, and there's no more enemies than all the rest of the characters go, right? Hence the benefit of wiping them out quickly. But what I love about this game, unlike the other board games, which is not a bad thing, what I'm saying here, is or bashing any other games, is once you defeat all the foes, most cases the foes, like, they're defeated and there's no more enemies in this world. But here, because they're creating that stress and that constant resistance, because this is an alien force, it's keep on coming, and pretty much they're informed of your coming and they know of you, and they're trying to hunt you down, and they keep coming at you. So at some point there is kind of reinforcements, and here it's mentioned, like, it is kind of, you'll see how it works, but basically if you gain certain reinforcements, which is a negative points, enables foes to come back on board. And depending how, because each unit, like this is a unit of two spec ops, right? So when it's spec ops turn, basically those two units activate, right? So a unit activates. So, and this is their start. So each enemy foe has their starts and special abilities and special weapon and range, or melee damage, and the roll dice they act, and how many units there is of that in that particular division. With like spec ops, there's two types of Nox spec ops, as you can see, 1 and 2, and some foes have 3 or some 4 even. It's scary. Okay, and the most important thing is to note that sometimes even when you kill one, you can have reinforcements, and we'll see how it plays out, that you're able to bring, the foes are able to just keep swarming you, and that keeps on that, move forward, don't take your time, because there's a sense of urgency, which I like. Welcome to the infinity sci-fi world where the foes are real, and I mean some of them are just dreadfully scary. And in this game there's no magic, no spell casting, no weirdness in that level, which thankfully so hence the sci-fi. So there's but what there is, which is kind of, I don't know, which we're going to get in the future into Shadowrun, but there's something called hacking, and there's kind of, enabling hacking here. And there's hackers, and we have a hacker. Actually, we have one character, which you've been following the story, is Valeria Gomez, and she comes with certain abilities, as you will find out later, and she's able to hack. Now, every time you will finish a mission, you get, each character, depending how well you finish the mission, you will obtain certain, tokenized points. And those tokenized points, each character can spend them to, empower or buy certain new gear. So it's like purchasing on the market, new gear. And also you obtain, certain skills, and you get to choose what skill. And what's so beautiful about the skills, and this is a, typical, one example of a skill, and you're going to find out more skills, like her, skill is to pretty much, summon, like she, or to clearly say, she can, here, she gets bodyguards, and bodyguard level 1, well, again, she's an O12 officer, that's why she get it. So you must be an O12. Sometimes some are class specific, like, or faction specific, because she is, of O12, so she gets this, kind of type. She would be able to, and you may select an escort with the regular trooper characteristic. And this is, so basically she's able to bring another character on board. So usually you're only able to play 4. Because of this, she brought this marksman, which aggressive, because I'm playing offensive instead of defensive, and hopefully it doesn't thrash me. Okay, and this is pretty much the element of the round, right? You can't play endlessly right here. There's only 10 rounds before you get a blip, and if you start already in a threat, this is like, think of this from 1 to 5, a threat, or a threat alarm. And if the alarm ever gets to the maximum, basically this foes, which you could see, is this is the regular side, meaning that they're normal, normal troops. But if they ever get to the maximum alert, they go berserk, and their strength and their capabilities kind of shift. You know what I mean? They don't get weaker, they get stronger, to the point you are really on a suicide run. Okay, so you never want this to go to the maximum alert. Now, another thing is, and how you know where to put it is usually each mission will inform you of where the threat level is at. And right now, the threat level is at 1, the first mission, as we will learn and we will venture forward. More important, there's elements of this, and this is also going to be part and discussed in the first mission. This is, sometimes you're going to get allies and different kind of character. Like this is also an ally, but this allies also will, how can I say this, give you an extra fold or extra shot or extra, ability to do damage because they can actually interact, also engage with the board, which makes them more realistic. It's not like, some board games or some storylines where, I got an ally, but he can't do anything. You know what I mean? So they have their own statistics, their own, and we're going to get that to later. They can do their own thing. Now, also very, very important, the hackers only per se, or some special characters, but mostly the hackers for them. They get remotes or and remotes can be, considered as allies or sometimes as droids, bots, etc. And they function on their own. You know what I mean? So each one has their own capability. And again, like I said, the miniatures and the foes you could face off in this game can be really scary. Like look at this one, right? Like this guy, I wouldn't want to, I wouldn't want to go push him or even play with him. Hopefully, we can have him as an escort and he can help us. So each character has their stats, each character has their abilities. With all this depth, and there's much more that here possibly I'm not displaying or informing or showing, like it's very important to note that when you come, like some objectives, to unlock doors, sometimes you need to interact with the consoles, and only hackers and other characters could also, but they can't engage it as well as hackers could. And each console will pretty much have different inputs. You later on you will see, and based on those engagement they give you certain results, right? Some things can blow up in your face, which you don't really want to happen. And the beautiful thing, again, getting back to the skills, is you can make any character pretty much anything. So you got over 30 types of skills, and over those 30 skills you can make, and some of them are repetitive, so in a sense like it's almost like 60 skills, and all those skills when between the 3 campaigns or 3 boxes that you should get, in my opinion. And I'm not telling you to buy the reinforcement packs, and I'll get to the reinforcement packs conversation very soon, because that character that I just showed you was part of the reinforcement packs. But what I want to tell you is that you can pretty much create very powerful characters as they level up, and to the point where it's not only power dice but also power skills and power abilities, and more important, and some of the skills are class specific, and you can see there's classes because this is a fighter and it says specific there. Even the weaponized, sometimes they're pertaining to this kind of class that they are. This is a fighter, she's a leader, and hence she's going to lead this campaign. And what you don't see right here, but you see here, is a hacker, and literally says hacker. And what we have under here, hiding our other character, if you've been following the story, he's called Kiangao, and he's armored. And he has, like, look at his armor right there. That is his armor. And, tell you how many dice you can roll for defense, and how many dice you can roll against hack. And you could see, if you could see on the bottom here, if you could see very well, it's not clear, but on the top right here it says heavy armor, which is kind of, those texts mean something, and it says hackable, which means he can become hackable because of the armor he's wearing. The moment you're wearing any kind of armor, you're overall, being hackable, right? Unless you're wearing some leather armor like him, and specifically so, he's not that hackable from what it shows right here, from the gear that he's wearing, okay? And again, like, each character has different weapons. Each character can equip the same weapons, etc. And some weapons come with, extra dice results. So each weapon, like this light weapon that Catherine Chow carries, if you notice, it says right here how many dice you roll. But if by happens some of the dices have special results, if you like 2 exclamation card, you'll do this end result. So basically, on the dice rolls, certain other effects can take effect, basically. Okay? Sorry on the camera, but can't control that. Now, that is pretty much the overall summary of the components. Again, it kind of carries on to the other campaigns, but there is different kind of components. Overall, I would say top-notch components. I would say top-notch, setup gear. But it kind of worries me. And the beautiful thing, by the way, before I carry on, all these characters, all this, figurines are transferable to the Infinity world. Okay? So, and which we're going to get in deeper in discussion of what sense when we talk about the review, which will be down the road. Aside from that, hope you like what you see component wise, because I do very much RP Gamepire, and I'm looking forward. The rule book itself, it's about 30 pages plus, and again, it pretty much summarizes every possible scenarios and everything that you could play. But again, there's been some mistakes and some errors, and some things are not that clear. And I just wish Corvus Belli can give a little bit more support or a clear rewrite on the rule book, which shouldn't be that complicated, in my opinion. And so it should revise the validity of certain things, because right now I'm going to base everything like this, so I'm not going to fish left and right. Now, I know there's a certain point. There's been an FAQ, but some have been arguing, unless tell me otherwise in the comments, but the FAQ is not that clear or solid, or there's issues with the FAQ. So I'm going to base everything based on the rule book that came with the board game. If there's any questions to it or pertaining to it, or issues that you may see, or some things that are not correct, let me know. Aside from that, I'm looking forward to playing this, and more importantly, venturing forward and seeing the story together, as I'm sure this is going to be something of a very tense storyline because of the fact that it's a suicide run. And if there's any other comments, let me know. Otherwise, please subscribe, place your comments, and welcome back to RP Gamepire.